in progress.
Just switch off your laptop so that it's not feedback. That's fine. Very cool. Very good. A second.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, stakeholders, our skills development facilitators. Welcome to AgriSeta's mandatory grant workshop. We welcome you all. I do see that we have a significant number of participants already in the link. Can we allow 5 more minutes for everybody to join? And then we'll kick off. Thank you very much for your patience. We'll be with you in 5 minutes. Thank you. Good morning once again, stakeholders from our side. I think officially welcome to AgriSeta's mandatory grant workshop. I see we have a significant number of participants, and we really appreciate that. So currently there's around 240 participants into the session. We really appreciate that, and we do expect that to grow to beyond 300. So thank you for joining us. I think, ladies and gentlemen, let us perhaps start the way we usually start, and that is by opening with a prayer. I think for now, perhaps allow me to open with a quick prayer, and then we can get it going. Can we close our eyes, ladies and gentlemen? Lord, we thank you for all of the blessings that you give us every day. Thank you for everything that you do for us. Thank you for health. Thank you that you allow us, Lord, and given the ability to care for those that we love. Please allow us to create hope. Please guide us and be with us. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the official kickoff of our 2022 mandatory grant workshop. We've taken the bold step to have one workshop this year, given the time frame and some of the pressing matters that we have. With me, I've got the manager within the department, Bavuyise Hermanus. Bavuyise is the manager responsible for mandatory grants as one of his functions. And I also have to the left of me, Mr. Fanny Petla. Mr. Petla is the executive manager of our quality assurance department. But, and that brings me, ladies and gentlemen, to an apology. Our CEO will be joining us later on, but Mr. Petla will be standing in and taking care of business on that front. What is going to happen today? Ladies and gentlemen, if you are not in mandatory grants, you might be in the wrong session. So today is all about mandatory grant submission to that dreaded date of 30 April annually. So we're heading there. And today is to capacitate you, to give you the latest information, system changes, and some critical information that you will require in successfully submitting your mandatory grants. I am fortunate really to report that the mandatory grants have exceeded again this year their targets in terms of approvals and payouts. So the team is really working very, very well under the stewardship of Bavuyise and Mandu and the team. How we will do this is that I will hand over to Mr. Petla just to run through the introductory remarks, comments. And then I'll introduce Bavuyise for him to have a bite on a slide or two. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to allow the team to present today. It is not about executives and managers talking the whole day. It's about a team. So the team will be presenting and taking you through the various areas that you need to focus on. So I think first things first, let me allow Mr. Petla perhaps just in terms of the introductory remarks and to run us through a few of his thoughts and comments. Mr. Petla, let me just get you on board, and then we can run with this. Morning, CEO. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been joined by our CEO. I think he will also add a bit of information, but let Mr. Petla perhaps do the front part of it. And then thank you very, very much, CEO, for joining us. And then the CEO will take that from there. Thanks, Mr. Peter.
Thank you, Frankie. Thanks, colleagues, and good morning, stakeholders. I think it has been, it's just the beginning of 2022. My view is that we need to lubricate ourselves. We need to start there with oomph. We need to start there with steam, and we cannot take away the to say that you are the steership of AgroSeta to ensure that the skills that the people acquire there in the workplaces are there because you are guiding us and you are helping us to identify those skills that are very much important in terms of AgroSeta. So we have a triple challenges. You know, we have got a rife unemployment. We have got poverty that is characterizing our country, and we have got the pockets of inequality that the government is asking every role player to come and assist in fighting, you know, those enemies that we have. So I thought that I'll have the whole time, you know, I was praying hard that CEO comes late, but it's very early. And so I will just bite this small cake on the table, but CEO is within us to take the better part of the introduction and the welcoming for the key stakeholders. And we would like to welcome you from my part, and then we're hoping that all of us will have a good ride together and joining hands in trying to find those triple challenges. The CEO is here, will just also take the greeting going forward. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good morning to all of you who by now, I think quite a number of companies, we know each other. We know the opportunity that we do every time together with the team to come and meet you. You raise one or two issues that perhaps it's an area where you think we can increase and improve on. That is highly appreciated. So one of the things that I'm looking forward to now is engaging us, sending one or two questions to us through the system that we have here. And those questions that you are sending, they would be responded to by the CEO when we close. I will come back after having received all the questions or proposals that you are sending. We are an organization that is improving from time to time like now, but otherwise the division that is running it, headed by Friki Foshe, Bavu and the Hermanas and also the team. We are happy with the division. We are excited the way how they are handling yourselves. And we are able to see when the mandatory grants are paid on time. Generally, as the CEO, I have not received quite a number of challenges from the division itself, from yourselves, when it comes to mandatory grants. And I say thumbs up to the team. I'm not buying their faces. They know for sure that it's not an area where we are experiencing challenges. You know, a tax incentive to basically upskill the sector. That's the benefits that you continue to receive when you are putting all the efforts that you are putting. Friki and the team continue to handle this meeting very well. I'm looking forward in particular to responding to the questions that would be coming One of them, I just hope it's not that we are not being paid mandatory grants on time, but I don't think such a question would come. But if we are, let it come and we'll respond as openly as we possibly can. So I should be back with you on the last 30 minutes of all the presentations. I hand it over to you, Friki, and all the best for the day. The attendance is good as always. Good luck, guys.
Thank you so much, CEO. Thank you for being with us. We really do appreciate that. And we're looking forward to the questions at the back end of our session. Let's just perhaps allow Babu to move closer. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do today, this is basically what we're up against in terms of some opening remarks, which the CEO assisted us there. Ladies and gentlemen, stakeholders, there's some crucial announcements that Babu Hise will take over, and then he will hand over to his team to start with the workshop, to workshop the new system, and to make sure that our submissions is as good as they were in the past. And then I think at the back end, obviously, we will share contacts. It's important that people do know who to phone and when they need some assistance. Allow me, stakeholders, just to run into a few of our introductory slides. This is who we are. This is our vision and our mission and our values. And a part of the day is really to capacitate and to enable our sector. And that's really what it's about today. It's more than just a workshop. Our long-standing Sdfs would know this workshop by now, but it's more than that. It is to make sure that we keep contact with you, but it is really a beneficial session for both of us. We do benefit from the data that you send us, and obviously we must make sure that we pay out our mandatory grants. Our values: we're being transparent, we are here, we are being responsible with public money. We work as a unity with our sector. We make sure with the mandatory grants that we do deliver. And of course, it's all about teamwork. We are working with you. Then some of the remarks perhaps that I just want to highlight. Ladies and gentlemen, stakeholders, this is what we're up against. If we look at the working age, 15 to 64-year-olds, there's around 39.7 million of those in South Africa. And of those, only 14.3 million is working currently, which by all means must be alarming. 7.6 million people are looking for jobs, but they can't find jobs. And then there's another 18 million that is not working actively or has given up hope. So that is what we're up against, ladies and gentlemen. And of those employed, currently it's 57% is male, 43.3% is female. So it is still a male-dominated space, and it talks to us what we need to do. More alarmingly, our youth between the ages of 15 to 24, 64.4% of that age group is unemployed. 64.4%. And you would have heard that I pray for hope. And this is where we need to start to create hope for people, to look after those that they love and to be able to get into decent jobs. I think as an organization, our research is pointing us to a future where things are going to move faster, quicker, and the new normal might be more with less. But it also opens avenues for us. If we look briefly at this slide, talking to our priorities or what we see as emerging occupations, from irrigation specialists drone operators. Precision agriculture has become the norm nowadays, where the generation of huge data sets has become the norm. You can only manage if you can measure, that sort of approach. In terms of biosecurity, in agriculture, biosecurity is almost a word that we use every day, be it in the poultry industry, be it in what industry. Data scientists and ICT specialists, we do not foresee in the future that we will move to a point where these sort of occupations are not in high demand. These are becoming more and more in demand. And of course, how we connect various data sets across various measurements. Some people call it the Internet of Things. For me, it is just a collaboration of various data sets and technologies, and how we make things work together to make our sector more efficient. I can just relate to a very recent article that I read in saying that the number of farmers in South Africa is reducing. However, the yield and our produce are increasing. It talks to a sector that's really adapted. It talks to a sector that's dynamic. Are we there? No, we're not there yet. But if the number of producers are going down and your production volumes are going up, it talks to efficiencies that's been increasing. So that's how these technologies that I'm highlighting here has been adopted by our sector. And we do foresee that this in future will further expand. Just as an organization, the CEO actually put just 3 broad goals for us, priorities. He said, let's just make this simple. Let's make sure that we increase our revenue. And that is really to make a broader impact. And he's put a target of 1 billion by 2025. And this is what we need to plow back into our sector. That is how we're going to create the agricultural economy. How we're going to create people with the correct skills and capacity, really to step in and step up. A clean audit, we are a Schedule 3A public entity in terms of the PFMA. That to us is getting a unqualified audit opinion without any material adjustments. That's what we're aiming for. And I can assure you, ladies and gentlemen, we're well on our way there. And of course, my first slide here talked to unemployment. We cannot sit here and talk about many things if we do not make a difference or have an impact. And this is where we are saying we really need to talk to unemployment and poverty in our country. So these are the 3 broad sort of priorities that's been set for us, and that we will take forward. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me perhaps just to stop here now and ask Babuhise to step in and perhaps just get the workshop going. And during the day, we will introduce our team, and as they will be taking you through the various programs and various sections. Thank you very much again from my side. I think we will be in and out, and good luck with the workshop. Thanks, Babuhise.
Okay, thanks, Friggy. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As Friggy has already alluded, I am Babuhise Hermanos. I'm sure to many the face looks familiar. I've been joined next to me by my support, my person that has my back all the time, Mando Mahlangu. That's my assistant manager. She will also be introducing the team as they come. As Friggy has already alluded, as management, we have taken a different direction this year to make sure that the training is actually run by the entire team. This is obviously made out of a thought to ensure the organization has proper business continuity structures as we go ahead.
The legislation that mainly governs us as a Schedule 3 entity are listed on our slide. Mainly it's the PFMA Act, the Skills Development Act, and the DHEST regulations that I will also be dealing with later. If we look at what is it that is the purpose for the day, what is it that we are covering? Employers pay to us 1% as mandated by the Skills Development Levy Act. Out of the 1% that they give us, we have divided it so that the new employers, as well as the new Sdfs that are joining us, will be able to reconcile the payments that come to them at the end of the financial year. Generally, the 1% makes up the 100% skills development levy that comes to us. Then the SETA gets 8%. NSF actually gets 20%. Administration is 10%. Then mandatory grants will be 20%. Then my part starts here. My part starts here. It's mainly the announcement. We are taking a different direction as the organization, which is to, one, make sure that we connect with our stakeholders. I think it has been 2 years now since we have traveled to all provinces. So we want to be close to you as possible as we can. So the key announcements that I have are as follows. One, the indicium system that we are currently using to submit mandatory grants, the lifespan of that system or the contract we have with our current provider is currently coming to an end. That contract is going to expire with our financial year end, which is 31 March. So what is it that we are announcing now to our stakeholders is that by 1st of April, we will be migrating to a new system that is currently being customized. So why are we bringing this before the actual workshop? Is to actually encourage all our Sdfs to make sure that they make submissions before 31st of March. We are fully aware that legislatively the deadline is 30 April. However, we're making a plea to say before we migrate to a new system, which will be customized similarly to Indicium, but that system might not have similar features in every aspect. We are therefore pleading with our stakeholders to say, please, can you kindly bear with us on the transition and submit your WSP before 31 March, so that by the time our contract ends with Indicium, we have your data with us and we migrate to a new system. Obviously, the question will come to say, why at this time? Definitely the organization is engaging in many negotiations with National Treasury, as well as with our current service provider, to see how best can we address the matter. But as you guys know, we are governed by law. We would not like to incur any irregular expenditure or fruitless and wasteful expenditure by utilizing a system that has expired. And colleagues, if you have got any questions, you will realize that there is a chat box. There is also a question and answers. So we would like you to post your questions on the questions and answers, because that part of Zoom will be able to draw all the questions and answers that have been provided and later provide feedback to our stakeholders, should we not be able to give you the feedback during this training. From here, colleagues, allow me to hand over to my assistant manager, Mando Mahlangu. As she continues, she will call the team to join her on stage. I will be sitting on the background, mainly handling the chat with the other two team members. I thank you.
Good morning, colleagues. My name is Mando Mahlangu. I'm the Assistant Manager for Mandatory Grants, as my colleague Babu has already introduced me. So I'm going to take you through the next few slides before I hand over to my other team members. Okay, the purpose of this workshop, I'm just going to go through the scope of the workshop and the methodology. And number 3 is the objectives. It's our objective for us to have this workshop is to increase the quality and efficiency of the mandatory grant process and to increase the number of WSPs and ATR submissions annually and to increase the payout annually. For some of the SDFs that have engaged with me, you've noticed that if in prior years you did not submit a mandatory grant, you received an email where I have sent you personally and asked you that in the prior years, your 2019, 2020, you did submit, but you didn't submit in 2021. This is for us, so just to make you aware that we do check the data and would like to know and engage with you as a stakeholder if there was a process that you were unhappy with that made you to stop submitting, because you'll find some SDFs say that it takes a lot of time and the money that you get is not enough for the time that is spent. So we do have a team that is dedicated to assist with all of that. And as an employer, if you're also not able to do that, we do have companies that do facilitate that and assist, but we cannot recommend which one you can use. But we do have external service providers that you can use, which we call external SDFs. So, but we also have a team. If you've got somebody in your organization, it doesn't have to be someone in a senior position, somebody in your HR division who can collect data and submit on your behalf. We do have a team that you can call, or anyone on our team that can assist you to submit. If you've had challenges before, you are welcome to contact us so that we can assist you with that process. Okay, the evaluation of the 2021 financial year has been concluded. So for the previous financial year, we have concluded all those applications and we've paid out the grants for that year. We have also continued to increase the number of the submissions that we receive annually. And then in 2021, we received just below 2,000 grants. In reality, we have over 7,000 levy payers that are registered on our database with SARS that are allocated to our SETA. The challenge that we have, I'm sure most of our team members, it's something that we've been working out through the years. We try and contact we get information from our DHEAD portal, and the information that we get will normally be the person who registered with SARS, which will be your bookkeeper or someone in your organization. So the challenge that we've noticed most of the time is the person who had actually registered the company. Sometimes they use external bookkeepers. So the details that SARS will have is for someone who's outside of the organization. So whenever we make contact with that person to ask who can we contact in the organization that can be able to assist, it's a challenge that we are pleading to people. And also if as an SDF, you are leaving the company, please register another SDF, is to assist us that we continue to engage with the company so that they're able to get their benefits. Our focus for 2022-23, which is this year, is the focus is increasing our large and medium organization participation and to also increase our small companies, which are over the threshold of 500,000 per annum, and to also increase the registrations of the new SDFs and the new incoming ISTs. We have companies that are transferring that were incorrectly allocated to different SETAs for different reasons. So when you do an IST transfer, once it comes through as well, you need to register with us as an SDF so that you can be able to submit. And we also are aiming to enhance the submission mechanism, as my colleague has also alluded that we are moving to a new system, I think after the financial year, a new IT system. So we are trying to make this as less complicated as we can so that more participation can also be from other SDFs that are not participating, because as we've mentioned that we have about 7,000 levy payers who are on our database, but we always get less than 2,000 submissions. So we're also updating our new IT system, which will be introduced after the 31st of March. Okay, this is just the stats, our subsector and the number of levy payers, the WSP submission, and the sector overview. So this just shows our aquaculture, fiber, grains and cereals, horticulture, milling, pet food and animal feed, pest control, poultry, red meat, seed, sugar, and tobacco. So it just shows the grand total of all our levy payers across the different subsectors. It's 7,218. But the WSP submissions that we have, it's about 1,929. So which you can see there's about 5,000 plus Sdfs, which are, or companies that are not submitting. And that means all of those companies are not enjoying the benefits that they should. Some companies are currently, we know with COVID, they got hit hard, and the first divisions that will obviously be affected when you are experiencing financial problems will be your learning and development. So we encourage stakeholders to submit and register with your SETA. Just check if you don't know which SETA you belong to. On your EMPSA, which is the statement of account, which you get monthly, below on that statement, it will show you a SETA code. So you have to just contact the SETA that you registered. Agri-SETA is SETA 20. And even if you change your registration, some companies change from a PTY to another type of entity. So when you do that, when they change the SDL as well, it changes on the system. That means you might automatically be registered with Agri-SETA if you've selected the right SIC code or go through another SETA, because you find that people will continue submitting with the old SDL number. So we encourage Sdfs to also engage with their finance departments, because most of these things that entail the submission of your SARS submissions are handled by your finance divisions. Okay, I'm gonna introduce now the mandatory grants team as a whole, just so that you can be able to link the face to the voice, because most of you have always engaged with different people within our department, but you don't know, you can't link the face to the picture. So the voice, sorry, to the picture. So I'm gonna introduce the team. So just for them to come up behind me so that you can see all of them. Okay. The manager is Babuyise Hermanas, which you've already seen already. He was presenting before me. So, and I've already said my name is Mando. So the first one will be Sipondala. Sipondala is our officer. He's the gentleman behind me. And then the second one is Raquel Harris. Raquel is also our officer within the team. Then the third one is Pamela Ngubane. Pamela Ngubane is also an officer in our team. Then the last one is Kulufelo Malapane. Kulufelo is also an officer within the department. Thank you. The levies and grant regulations. Okay, the employers they pay an annual, employers with an annual payroll greater than 500K, they pay 1% of annual payroll as skills levy. And to qualify for the mandatory grant of 20%, you need to submit an annual training report, which we call the ATR for the previous year, and a workplace skills plan for the next reporting period. Then from this slide, I'll end here and hand over to my colleague, Pamela Ngubane, to take you through the next slides. Thank you.
Good morning to all the stakeholders. Good morning to all my colleagues. And a happy new year to the Sdfs, as I'll be taking you through the rest of the presentation. Well, the seat, I'll be taking you through. Okay, please. I'm sorry about that. Now, who are the qualifying employers for the mandatory grants? SETA must only pay mandatory grants to employers that are eligible for that. I'll take you through also to the criteria. It's as follows. You must be registered with the Commissioner of SARS in terms of the SDL Act, which is the Skills Development Levy Act, paid the levies due to the Commissioner as required, submit the WSP and ATR by the deadline. The WSP is the work skills plan and the ATR is the annual training report. The ATR is whereby you tell us what you have done for the previous year. It's where you report. And the WSP is where you plan for the next year ahead. The information on those two forms, it must be accurate at all times. It makes also our jobs as officers very easy. Employers registration with SARS. Now, I'm going to explain what is an IST. An IST is when you are incorrectly registered with a SETA. Now, I'm going to make it very practical as it can be, because Kulu and I, my colleague next to me, we are the ones specifically dealing with this function. So what you do, I'm going to make it very practical. So if you are registered with food, say for instance, you're supposed to be registered with AgriSETA, but you find yourself being registered with Food Bev. No, so now your next job, the employer's job or the SDF's job is to fill in a form. Those forms, we call them IST, inter-SETA forms. We've got two forms. We've got an in and an out. An in form is when you want to come into AgriSETA, and out form is when you want to transfer to another SETA. So what we do there, you give us, say for instance, you want to come in AgriSETA. So you fill in a form with the correct details on the form. You make sure you fill in the SIC code. The SIC code must be correct. And then we capture that form in the levy portal system, which is the DHEAD portal. If you fill in that form, we capture it. We once that's done, we take it to the other SETA. The other SETA must approve your move. Once that's done, once that's done, we give you a status. The status should say it's being approved by the next SETA. Once the status would say approved by the current SETA. And then from that function, from that status, it goes to DHEAD and SARS. And remember one thing about about as intercita, it's a lengthy process. It takes from 3 to 6 months. So you must be very patient with us. And it is also very important for the SDF to liaise with us and remind us that, can you kindly check how far my IST is? Because we deal with a lot of ISTs. Once that it comes in, then we will then request that an employer registers an SDF. What is mandatory grants? Mandatory grants are paid by the SETA if the company fulfills the requirements to receive the grant. In order to qualify to receive the mandatory grants, the levy employer has to meet the levy must meet the following criteria. You must be registered in terms of the Skills Development Act, be up to date with your levies. It's very important to be up to date with your levies, because if you're not up to date and then you get a query from us saying that you have no levies, that's when we will also request from you an EMPSA, which is your statement of account, which will you'll get from SARS, which will basically tell us your contributions to the levy. The Levy Development Act is imposed to encourage learning and development in South Africa, and it is determined by the employer's salary bill. The levy is 1% of your salary bill. Companies with a wage bill of less than 500,000 do not qualify for this levy. All levies need to be up to date at the time of approval, as I had explained why it needs to be up to date. Employ a skills development. So an employer will employ an SDF, whether internal or external. The WSP and ATR are submitted by the required deadline, which is the 30th of April, with the special request now that you submit on the 30th of March due to our systems being put in place, the new system being put in place. So we kindly request, plead that SDFs submit on the 30th just for this year. An employer who has a recognition agreement with the trade union will have to provide proof of WSP and ATR, have been subject to consultation with recognized trade unions, and they have been signed off by the relevant union. What happens if you don't submit or don't submit on time? If the employer does not claim the mandatory grant by the deadline, the SETA must immediately transfer the employer's unclaimed mandatory grants to the discretionary grant, which is our LPP department deals with the discretionary grants. In terms of the relevant regulation, requests for extension and late submissions will not be accepted by the SETA. So if you miss the deadline, we do not make exceptions, not at any given time. The penalty for submitting a mandatory grants application late is losing the whole. So if you do not submit, you lose the grant. The only exception to not submitting or submitting late is when you have submitted, is when the WSP is submitted within the 6 months of registration in the case of an employer who's registered for the first time in terms of Section 5, one of the skills development levies. So if you are a new company, businesses with the triple BEE compliant and require skills development to be recognized on their triple BEE score card must submit the mandatory grants to respective SETA by the 30th of April. An employer might not have access to discretionary grants. So that's what happens if you do not submit on time the WSP. Thank you. I now hand over to Kulufelo Malapana.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and my colleagues. My name is Kulufelo. My other name is Davis. For those of you who don't know how to pronounce Kulufelo, so you can call me Davis. I like the name anyway. So I'm going to take you on how to claim a mandatory grant. So this is basically me taking you through the nitty-gritties of what we actually require. So let's hit the boat running. How do you as companies claim mandatory grants? So in order for you to claim your mandatory grants back, meaning that 20% that you pay, that you want to get back from us, you need to simply submit your ATR and WSP to us. And you need to do that so by the 30th of April. Well, this is a legislated date. My manager has said earlier on that we're pleading with you that because we are migrated to a new system, if you can, please submit by the 31st of March. So now your annual training report is basically a report on the training that actually happened last year. But here's the glitch there. Your ATR should be in line with your previous year's WSP. So if last year on your WSP, you had said that you're going to train Kulufelo for first aid, that should reflect in your ATR. Not only that, any other training that also took place between the 1st of April 2021 and the 31st of March 2022. This means when you submit your proof of training for ATR, you must just make sure that either your invoices are dated between the 1st of April 2021 and the 31st of March 2022. What is a WSP? A WSP is simply a workplace skills plan. This is simply a plan that allows you as an organization to identify the skills gap within your organization. For instance, if Kulufelo can't read, then you identify in the WSP that I'm going to take Kulufelo for reading. So you include that in your plan. So this is just basically a simple plan. And the plan runs from the 1st of April 2022 to the 31st of March 2023. If you're not sure about the dates, you can always call and ask. Right, now we're getting to the technical details of the system and what we actually require. For you to be able to, for your submission to be compliant without any glitches, we require, the total percentage of the mandatory grant that you will get is 20% of your levies. And this is received from the 1st of April 2022 to the 31st of March 2023. So we simply require your ATR, which is your annual training report, your workplace skills plan, and your authorization page and proof of training. And just please make sure that your authorization page is fully signed and your proof of training is compliant. And the format of submission is online, strictly online. We do not have any manual submissions anymore, unless when the new system comes. But we use a system called Indicium at the moment. I'm sure most of our SDF are familiar with the system. So we're still using Indicium and it's strictly online. And it is compulsory for all the large, mediums, and small companies to submit. We also have a bulk import. This is when you have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of employees and you just don't want to type them one by one. So you can import them using an Excel spreadsheet. And then another thing is that the OFO code has changed to a new version, to the 2021 version, and that will be used for the ATR and the WSP. All right, now for the proof of training, we require we prefer invoices actually, but you can also send us certificates. Just make sure that on your certificates, we can clearly see the company name, the program name, and the stamp. If you don't have a stamp, you can actually just put in the levy number and sign next to it. It's still fine, it's acceptable. And then we also require attendance register. Remember, this is just either one. You don't have to send us invoices, certificates, and attendance registers. You can send one of the documents. And then for small companies, for less than 50, you can just make your life simple and just have a summary of training with your company letterhead and said, Kulufelo Pty Ltd has trained so many employees on this course. This is the estimated amount it costs. This is the dates of the course, and then you just get a senior person to sign the letter. Simple. And then for any visual training, if you have done any visual training like we're doing now, you can still send us proof of that on a company letterhead also. And please make sure that your uploads are clear, readable, and do not fax or email unless we ask you to do so. So when you upload, you must please upload your authorization page. When you can download the authorization page from the Indicium system. Your banking details also, please make sure that you submit your recent banking details, and then proof of training. Those are the 3 uploads that we require. And then all letters or any communication that is sent to you as an SDF, you'll find it on a tab there on our Indicium system, on the Indicium system. There's a tab called Client Relationship Management. So you can actually go there any time of the year to view if there's any query letter, any grant payment letter. You can make that tab your friend. You'll find everything there. And then all our manuals and guidelines, you can easily download that from our website, or you can send us an email, we'll gladly send it through to you. And then the Indicium system is best viewed in Google Chrome. You will struggle if you use Internet Explorer, you'll have, but if you stick to Google Chrome, you'll be good to go. Registration of SDFs. If you're a new company, you're starting to submit your WSP with AgriSeta, you first need to register as a skills development facilitator. So what happens is that a company will appoint Kulufelo as their skills development facilitator and give them an appointment letter. This is very important. It's like you've been employed. And then you register on the system, upload the letter. We will get an email notifying us of the letter, and then we approve you on the system. This is prior to you getting actual approval to actual start submitting your WSP. So this is the very first step that you go through, and it's very important. So there's an example of an Sdf appointment letter. They just make sure that the details of an Sdf are there, meaning the name, the ID number, the telephone number, the cell phone number, and the email address. And what is also important is that the letter should be signed by the owners of the company or any senior person within the company. SDF registration on the system, the process, this is what I've just explained. You visit our AgriSeta website, which is www.agriseta.coza. You click on login, click on register on the right-hand top corner, select SDF registration for the first time. This is applicable to first-time SDFs. Complete or update SDF details and save and proceed. So if you are a previous SDF and you would like to, update your details, like update, you've changed your email address, you can still use this process and change your email address so that communication will then come to you, and then you uploaded the signed appointment letter and then click finalize application. You're good to go. The new changes on the system. Even though the system is old, but we have incorporated some new changes for compliance reasons. As I've mentioned earlier on, that the OFO codes have changed to the year 2021. So basically, this is just, nothing has changed on the OFO code. It's just that the code has now changed. The OFO code is still structured in 8 major categories: managers, professionals, technicals, clerical services, skilled agricultural, plant, and elementary occupations. So as an SDF, you are also, the reason why you guys are using OFO codes is because we use that when we compile our SSP, our sector skills plan as an industry. So like I said earlier on, this is still the same OFO codes, it's just that the code has changed. It now starts with 2021 and then 11101. So that's just the only thing that has changed on the OFO codes. This is just an example of how the OFO code version looks like. Right, another changes is that we have incorporated the compulsory EMP 201 from SARS has to be uploaded before you submit. So if you don't upload this document, you will not be able to click the submit button. The system will not allow you to do so. So as you can see on the system there, you'll see a tab under the client relationship management. You can click there and upload your EMP 201. We use this EMP 201 just to check how far you are with your levies, whether you've paid the levies. And then another change is that we now require you to upload your banking details. Even though you have not changed your banking details last year, we still require you to update your banking details to the recent ones. This is to avoid payments delay from finance. So without you uploading your banking details, you will not be able to click the submit button. It will show an error. An example of the type of banking details that we require either a cancel check or a bank letter. So your cancel check should clearly state the company name and the account number. So if you're using a bank letter, the signature, the bank stamp, and the details of the company should be on that letter. Please make sure of those things. And then the challenges that we get when we do evaluations. Proof of training is number one. We find that some SDFs do not upload proof of training, or when they do upload proof of training, it's the incorrect type of proof of training. And when we mean incorrect type of proof of training is you find that when you open the system, you get remittances, you get enrollment forms. Like I have said earlier on, the only proof of training that we require is attendance registers, invoices, certificates, or a letter of summary of training that took place. Anything else will be deemed incorrect. And please submit one proof of training for one program. So if you did first aid, health and safety, and working at heights, at least submit one of each. Not 10 certificates for first aid, 10 certificates for working at, I just need one. That's all. The authorization page, just make sure that the authorization page is fully signed by the CEO, the SDF, the person confirming that the information is correct. And if you have trade unions in a company, this is applicable to large companies, then on your authorization page, you'll have 4 signatures: CEO, SDF, trade union signature or committee or member of committees, and the person who's going to be approving, who's going to be approving the WSP. Our payment schedule. We pay our mandatory grants as per schedule. So we pay them quarterly. So the first grant payment will be September 2022. So if your application or your submission has not been recommended or approved by end of August, then that means you will fall on the second payment schedule. So these are the payment schedules that we usually follow. So the first quarter will be September, second quarter December, third quarter March, and then the fourth quarter will be June. That's all from me. If you want to contact us, if you want to see us, you are more than welcome to make an appointment with us. If you did not get enough information, you can make an appointment with either me, Pamela, Raquel, or Sipo. We can take you through the system and take you through the presentation again. Sure. You can use these contacts. There's our cell phone numbers there. Not our cell phone numbers, but our landline and our email. We are very effective when it comes to responding to emails. You can just drop us an email. Thank you very much.
Thanks to the team, as well as to the 235 participants that we still have online. This brings us to the end of our session. However, there are a few things I want to emphasize on that my team has touched base on. So please remain before we take the questions and answers. My team has been very active there answering, but there will be those questions that I will be taking now after I've made my comments. The first thing that I need to emphasize as the person who is at the helm of the mandatory grants division is the introduction of EMP 201 and the banking details as a mandatory submission. Why are we coming up with this new change? The change is due to two factors. One, at the end of November last year, our finance division discontinued to use Microsoft AX Dynamics as our financial systems or our financial accounting system. Then it migrated to Sage X3. As you all know that we are living in the computerized world. We know that we are not exempt from either pinching, we are not exempt from hacking, or we are not exempt to any form of cyber crime. So we introduced the requirement for the banking details to cover ourselves to ensure that before we make any payment in the new financial year, your proof of banking details shall always be confirmed before we actually release your payment. This is to ensure that your banking details are actually correct. The next thing that we are looking at is the issue of the EMP 201. I think when Freaky made the first remarks in the beginning, spoke about the board priorities as well, the vision that the CEO has set for us. This is aimed at increasing our revenue collection to 1 billion rand. So why do we request EMP 201s? We are fully aware that some of our Sdfs have been with us for quite some time. Secondly, as much as they've been with us for quite some time, I might have a good eye to pick up that their levies are actually going to a sister SETA, therefore they need to be transferred to us. I might also be able to pick up the related entities that are actually not linked to our SETA companies, and from there we will be able then to advise you to follow the IST route, which over the past 2 years, I think our success rate have increased. Then the last part before I handle the questions and answers with the CEO, it deals with the last payment for mandatory grants. The last payment we made in December, if you go to your InDCM system, the payment letters might not be uploaded currently. However, we did disperse the mandatory grants in December early, first week. The reason the payment letters are not yet uploaded there is due to the migration from AS system to the cloud-based system, which is a Sage X3. And the payment covered 2 months, so do expect that your next payment run will be higher than the last 3 that you have received. As the speakers have already alluded, we are working tirelessly to ensure that all approvals are finalized before the end of this month, especially the small companies have been affected. If you have got a query that is still outstanding and you have not responded to the letter that was issued to you by my team, please make sure that you submit all the necessary documents. that are listed there. And without wasting more time, colleagues and my stakeholders, I've been joined by the CEO as well as my executive manager, Frigi Foucher. When I'm sitting like this, I feel like an executive as well. I hope that will wrap off. So we will be taking the questions that are actually in the question and answers box. I think the first one that is not yet answered is the question from Victor Koza, my good friend from RCL Food in the sugar industry. Victor, for your question, we fully note your question, and no doubt we are working as the organization. This is a conversation between our ICT that is led by a capable CIO, Mr. Kenzani Koza, as well as our finance led by the CFO, Mayor Mukhao Salebe. They are currently engaging our current service provider to see if there is any possibilities that we can extend the system. However, we are a Schedule 3A entity. Under legislations, I've already alluded that we need to comply with the prescripts of the PFMA Act. If National Treasury sets a limit on how long can you extend a system or use the so-called legacy systems within government, we might not be able to extend that system. However, let me take you to confidence that the system that we are bringing in is internally developed by the organization, and we are inheriting it from our sister companies. There are two other sitters that are using the system, and both of those sitters also emigrated from using Indicium system. So when that system goes live, we will have a full support of the developers in the organization, our ICT team, so that we ensure that you don't miss your deadline. Then the last part that I need to deal with, because it's also covered in one of the questions that I saw here, is if you are unable to submit by 31st March, what are the other remedies that you have? The first remedy that you have is what is stipulated in the Skills Development Levy Act regulation. If you look at one of the sections, it allows our accounting authority to actually provide us with an extension. But given the fact that this is not a one-by-one challenge that we're facing, it's an institutional challenge where we have got a lifespan of a system that is expiring. The executive team will engage our board should need arise to extend the actual deadline date, but that will be our last resort. However, for now, we know we work very well with our stakeholders, and we've got no doubt that we will have very few entities that might not submit by the 31st of March, and all the support will be provided. I think having CEO next to me as well as Frigi, I am comfortable to say those that are in remote provinces or coastal provinces where we can't drive to them, we will be able to make plans to ensure that we send people to you to support you and ensure that you submit on time. Thank you.
Good morning once more. We have received quite a number of questions that have come, but they are operational in nature and basically do not need the CEO to respond. One, Babu, I'm just showing members who are listening that we have indeed checked the screens and got your questions. One, Babu, it's what date do we use for employee profile? It used to be the 31st March. Can we use any date like we choose the 31st January. So it's something that if you have not, you would address it. The second one is if you are unable to submit before the 31st March 2022, would you still be able to submit after that date, even if it's manually, if the new system is not ready yet? What is the precise reporting period for the mandatory grants? Can we report on booked training for March and April, even if it has not happened yet? Will you be sending out the presentation slide after the meeting? This one is yes, it will be sent. Maybe we can send it while we are engaging now. Does AgriSita, like some of the other sitters, I know WNR Sita does this. Does AgriSita, like some of the other sitters, maybe also engage in possible tender processes whereby the sitter covers the cost of external Sdfs to assist levy-paying employers to complete mandatory grants? It's one of the operational questions that has come from Lisa. The last one on what do you do in the event when the union refuses to sign as a means to use it as a bargaining tool? Second one from the same person, if an employer did not do any training in the previous year, do they still need to submit their ATR? And I'm speaking under correction, try to complete induction or other internal training before the 31st March. And you will have training for the ATR, proof of training will be registered. Oh, that was one amongst us responding to the question that has come. So in essence, the questions that came, they are more operational in nature. And I would allow Frege and also Babu to respond to such.
Babu, ladies and gentlemen, let me perhaps respond to all the questions relating to the system and our special request that since we've opened the system in December already, I think the idea for us was to avoid any foreseen or unforeseen problems that we might have in the submission of our WCPs and ATRs. And that's where the request was born to say, since the system was open, the companies that can submit, we are asking you to submit by 31 March. Obviously, there are companies like your bigger entities. Victor's asked a very relevant question that we do understand the magnitude and complexity of these companies, that it might become difficult. And we do understand that. But I do think our members will take that into consideration, that if you can submit. So that is the easy part. I think the question around some of the internal issues like unions, training committees, those sort of areas. From a CETA perspective, it becomes very difficult to respond to those sort of intricacies. However, the signing of an authorization page is one of our non-negotiables, and that must happen. If you have specific challenges in terms of the administrative part, please do let the team know and we'll gladly assist you. Obviously, we cannot give you advice on your relationship with the union, but when it comes to the submission of the reports, obviously it becomes very important. There was a question, Babuisi will perhaps just underline what I'm saying. If you've done no training, your ATR, no training is also a report. Just remember, so if you've not done training, you've not done training. Let us not become creative, because the idea of mandatory grant is that we capacitate the workforce. And that is what the money is really for. A company would set out a plan, and the next year you report on the plan. So for whatever reason, training did not happen, a zero report is also a report. But I think the team will assist you in the intricacies there. Kolofelu, I call a prof inside CEO. Kolofelu said it very well. You know, if you do not report, it really have an impact. I've always was it Pamela. It really has an impact on you claiming your levies. So that is very important. Please do not miss in not submitting. Ultimately, that is the worst that you can do is not submit. Although I've tried to answer broadly, I don't know if there's a specific response that you wanted to give that I might not have touched on.
Okay, thanks, Friggy. There is a request that I need to comment on Karen's query. I just want to take that and then head it back to the CEO. So the question that Karen asked is around the system. Says, could you explain further on the new system? 1 April, the request to submit is unreasonable. Karen, what the issue is there is that we are very lucky in the organization to have someone within mandatory grants who understand the issue of financial reporting as well as closing financial years. If your financial year is 31st of March, by now you would have trained a couple of your employees. You know what you will be rolling out in the last financial year, month of the financial year. So you can still submit that as a training. Then when the team is evaluating your invoice that you would have paid in April or that would have been issued to you in April can be a supplementary proof of training of what you have listed. We have on numerous occasions issued query letters that deals with non-submission of proof of training. So if your financial year end is coming to an end, you have capacity internally, my advice is submit what you are planning to roll out in February or in March. Another query that came is what Friggy has already dealt with, as well as Kulufelo. The reason why we are rolling out our trainings early, and the reason why we opened the system this year as early as December, is to ensure that we remind Sdfs to touch base with their clients, as well as to remind internal HR professionals to touch base with their finance departments to ensure that between now and the end of their financial year, they do roll out training. And the training we're talking about here, it's not training that requires budgetary funding or all those. We do accept internal training. If you go to our proof of training that we have requested, there will be requirements needed for an internal training that will be done. And luckily, as the organization now, we are having an M&E that is being fully capacitated and it's maturing. And part and parcel of what M&E will be rolling out in the new financial year is to also do monitoring and evaluation, which can select a WSP that you would have submitted to actually confirm if what you submitted to us is actually true and it's factual. And the declaration that you make on the authorization page is what we will use to ensure that information that is submitted to us was actually not exposing us to any fraudulent activities. And the organization will be in a position to take action should they pick up any inaccuracies. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Perhaps
all the organizations that are here, what is the role that you are playing when it comes to the youth and unemployment? We are all affected. Which role do you play? How can you assist us within your space to basically manage it? what type of engagement proposal you can have to us that perhaps if we do one, your organization will be able to do two. So this is the challenge that I'm posing to you, to come up with the solution which we can do in our own industry, assisting the government on the issues of young unemployment, wherein the ratio has reached 46.6% of young people who are unemployed. Otherwise, thank you so much for a wonderful meeting. I will let Friki close it after perhaps responding to the last question.
Thank you very much, CEO. Before I respond to one or two further questions, ladies and gentlemen, let me perhaps remind you that there would be a booklet that will be available online. As usual, it's updated. It contains the latest information, and you're very, very welcome to go and look at it at www.agrisita.co.za on our website, and you'll find it. Just a parting shot. There's a few technical questions that came in terms of banking details and all of those that I think the team will quickly respond to you, whether we accept a bank or an online generated confirmation of banking detail. I think, members, that is sort of things that is accepted, but I know the team will respond to you. There were questions around the ATR if you're a first participant. Do you submit an ATR? Those sort of questions the team will respond. They are very, very easy, and the team will guide you and respond. I'm encouraging you to use the contact details that we've given you. Perhaps just the last part. Banking details and confirmation of banking details is very important. Bavulisi has made a point of the element of fraud and those sort of things. So please just bear with us. We're just making sure that the money gets to where it's intended to, and we will really work from that. We will publish all the questions on our website and the responses so that everybody can learn from everybody, and we'll definitely do that. CEO, perhaps I think allow me perhaps to close down the session. Members, Sdfs, if I look at the number of people attending, I can see your positiveness, your willingness to assist, your willingness to participate. And allow me perhaps to thank you first of all for joining us. We really appreciate that. I'd really want the full team. Have they seen the whole team, Babu?
Yes, the team came.
So that you've seen the whole team, you have a face that you've seen. Please contact the team. They're ready and waiting. And then CEO, thank you very much for your support. I think a big part of our success is your support to us. We really appreciate that. I think from my perspective, I want perhaps for us to close down the session and thank everybody that participated. Thank you very, very much.
Those who are in can come at the back, and Mandy will take a picture that I will